Haunted by the what-ifs after they cheated. Can't move on. The rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the streetlights into hazy halos. Perfect New England misery, I thought, staring out the window of my tiny apartment. It was a far cry from the sprawling colonial Sarah and I had shared, the one with the meticulously manicured lawn and the Pottery Barn furniture. That felt like a lifetime ago, a different universe. 15 years. 15 years we built something, or so I thought. Now it felt like I'd been meticulously constructing a sandcastle, only to have the tide wash it all away in a matter of minutes. It started with a text. A stupid, seemingly innocuous text that flashed across her phone screen while she was in the shower. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. The winky face was what got me. Sarah never used winky faces, especially not with me. My heart did this weird lurch thing, like an elevator dropping unexpectedly. I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was probably a friend, a colleague, some inside joke I wouldn't understand. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it sprouted faster than crabgrass in July. The next few weeks were a slow-motion train wreck. I became a detective, a paranoid shadow of my former self. I checked her phone records when she was asleep, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the damn thing. Late-night calls to a number I didn't recognize. Business trips that stretched longer than usual. Dinners she claimed were with clients, but I couldn't find any evidence of online. I even violated her email, something I never thought I was capable of. That's where I found it. A thread of increasingly intimate messages with someone she'd saved as David Work. David, as in David Harding, her boss. The messages were explicit, graphic. My stomach churned. I tried to play it cool, to act normal. But the tension in the house was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. We'd sit at dinner, the silence punctuated only by the clinking of silverware. Her eyes darted around, never meeting mine. I'd try to make conversation, ask about her day, but her answers were clipped, vague. Long day at the office, she'd say, her voice flat, just dealing with the usual. The usual. Was the usual now secretly hooking up with her boss in some hotel room while I was home, cooking dinner and waiting for her? I finally cracked. A week later, after another late night, I confronted her. I didn't yell, didn't scream. I just laid it all out, the phone records, the emails, the credit card statements with suspicious charges at restaurants and hotels far from her supposed work events. She denied it at first, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Ethan, you're being crazy, you're reading into things, but the truth was written all over her face. The way her hands trembled, the way her voice wavered. She knew I had her. Then came the floodgates. Tears, apologies, excuses. She said she was stressed, felt neglected, that I was always working, always buried in my computer, that David made her feel seen. Seen. After 15 years of marriage, after building a life together, after supporting her through thick and thin, she felt unseen. The conversation was a blur, a chaotic jumble of accusations, justifications, and broken promises. I remember feeling numb, detached from my own body. Like I was watching a play unfold on a stage and the actors were speaking lines I didn't recognize. She admitted it had been going on for 6 months. 6 months of lies, deception, and betrayal. 6 months of her coming home to me after being with him. I felt sick, disgusted. Liam, my best friend since college, was the first person I told. We met at O'Malley's, our usual haunt, the one we'd been going to since we were underage and sneaking beers. He listened patiently, his face etched with concern. Man, I'm so sorry, Ethan, he said, squeezing my shoulder. That's rough. He offered the usual platitudes, she's not worth it, you deserve better, time heals all wounds. But none of it really sunk in. It felt like he was reciting lines from a bad movie. I just don't understand it, Liam, I said, swirling the ice in my whiskey. I thought we were happy. I thought we had something real. Maybe you just weren't paying attention, he said, a little too bluntly. Maybe she needed something you weren't giving her. I bristled at that. What's that supposed to mean? Hey, I'm just saying, he said, backing down slightly. Sometimes we get complacent. We stop putting in the effort. His words stung. Was he right? Had I been so focused on my career, on providing for her, that I'd neglected her emotional needs? The what-ifs started swirling in my head, a relentless, torturous carousel. What if I'd been more attentive? What if I'd taken her on more dates? What if I'd just listened more? The separation was brutal. Moving out, dividing our belongings, navigating the legal minefield of divorce proceedings. It felt like tearing apart the fabric of my life, thread by agonizing thread. I ended up in this cramped, sterile apartment, surrounded by boxes of unpacked memories. Every object, every photograph was a painful reminder of what I had lost. I started seeing Dr. Sharma, a therapist Liam recommended. She was kind and patient, but talking about it felt like picking at a scab that refused to heal. She kept asking me about my feelings, about my coping mechanisms, but all I felt was a dull, aching emptiness. "You're grieving, Ethan," she said during one session. "You're grieving the loss of your marriage, the loss of your future. But it's not just grief," I said, "it's also anger and betrayal. And this constant need to understand why. Why did she do it? What did I do wrong, doctor?" Sharma nodded sympathetically. "Those questions are natural, Ethan. But sometimes there are no easy answers. Sometimes people make choices that we can't understand. The key is to accept that, to let go of the need for closure. Easier said than done." I started going to O'Malley's more often, not just with Liam, but alone. I'd sit at the bar, nursing a whiskey and watching the game on TV. Sometimes I'd strike up a conversation with whoever was sitting next to me, mostly just mindless chatter to fill the void. There was a barista at the coffee shop downstairs from my apartment, a young woman named Maya, with bright eyes and a warm smile. I started making it a point to go there every morning, just to exchange a few words with her. It was a small thing, but it helped to break the monotony of my days. One evening, after a particularly rough therapy session, I found myself driving past Sarah's office. I knew it was a bad idea, but I couldn't help myself. I parked across the street and watched the building, my heart pounding in my chest. Around 7 p.m., I saw her leave. She was with David. They walked close together, their shoulders brushing. He put his hand on her back as they crossed the street. They looked happy. I felt a surge of rage, so intense it almost choked me. I wanted to confront them, to scream at them, to demand an explanation. But I just sat there, frozen in my car, watching them disappear into a restaurant. That night, I couldn't sleep. The images of Sarah and David kept flashing through my head, fueling my anger and resentment. I tossed and turned for hours, the what-ifs spiraling out of control. What if I'd been a better husband? What if I'd seen the signs earlier? What if I could have stopped it from happening? I needed to know more. I needed to know the full extent of the betrayal. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. So I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake profile on social media and started following Chloe. The young woman I had pieced together was involved based on a passing comment of Sarah's while drunk one night, who worked in Sarah's office. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A picture of Chloe and Sarah at a work conference, smiling and posing for the camera. But in the background, I saw David. And he was looking at Sarah with an expression that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just a casual glance. It was a look of possessiveness. I looked at the comments of the post and found a message from Chloe: "So glad I got to meet you, Sarah. You and David are the best bosses anyone could ask for." The knife twisted. She knew. They all knew. And I was the only one left in the dark. The divorce finalized a few months later. It was a cold, impersonal process, a series of legal documents and sterile courtroom proceedings. We divided our assets, sold the house, and went our separate ways. I haven't spoken to Sarah since. I don't know where she is, what she's doing, or if she's even happy. And honestly, I don't want to know. I still think about her, though, every day. The memories, both good and bad, still flicker in my mind. I still replay those moments, those conversations, searching for clues, for answers. The what-ifs still haunt me like ghosts in the corners of my mind. I tried dating again, but it was a disaster. I couldn't trust anyone. Every woman I met seemed like a potential Sarah waiting to betray me. I was so guarded, so afraid of getting hurt again, that I couldn't form any meaningful connections. One evening, I was at O'Malley's, nursing a beer and watching the Celtics game. Liam came in and sat next to me. "You okay, man?" he asked, noticing my glum expression. "Just thinking," I said. "Thinking about everything." "You gotta let it go, Ethan." He said, "You can't keep dwelling on the past." I know, I said. "It's just hard." He sighed. "I get it. But you deserve to be happy. You deserve to move on." He was right. I did deserve to be happy. But how? How do you move on from something that has fundamentally changed you? How do you trust again after being betrayed so deeply? I looked around the bar, at the other people laughing and talking, seemingly carefree. I wondered if they had ever experienced anything like what I had gone through. I wondered if they too were haunted by their own what-ifs. I took a deep breath and finished my beer. "I'm gonna try, Liam," I said. "I'm gonna try to move on." I started taking a pottery class at the community center. It was something I had always wanted to do, but never had the time. The feel of the clay in my hands was surprisingly therapeutic, a way to channel my emotions into something tangible. I reconnected with an old friend from high school, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. We went for a hike in the mountains, and it felt good to be outdoors, to breathe the fresh air, to escape the confines of my apartment. I even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. The unconditional love of the dogs and cats was a welcome antidote to the bitterness and cynicism that had been consuming me. It wasn't a miracle cure. I still had bad days, days when the what-ifs threatened to overwhelm me. But I was slowly, gradually starting to heal. I realized that I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo what Sarah had done, but I could control my future. I could choose to focus on the present, to build a new life for myself, one that was based on self-respect, resilience, and a cautious optimism. One sunny afternoon, I was walking through the park, listening to music on my headphones. I saw a young couple sitting on a bench, holding hands and laughing. They looked so happy, so in love. For a moment, I felt a pang of envy, a longing for what I had lost. But then I smiled. I knew that I might never have that again. I might never find that kind of love, that kind of happiness. But that didn't mean I couldn't find something else, something different, something that was uniquely mine. I kept walking, the sun on my face, the music in my ears. The what-ifs were still there, lurking in the background, but they no longer controlled me. I was finally starting to let them go. I was finally starting to move on. The image of Sarah and David at the restaurant still lingered, a ghost in my mental landscape. But now, it felt less like a wound and more like a scar. A reminder of what I had survived and a testament to my ability to heal. I stopped at Maya's coffee shop. "The usual?" she asked, her smile as bright as ever. "Actually," I said, "surprise me." She grinned and got to work. As I waited, I looked out the window at the people passing by on the street. Life was going on with or without me, and I was finally ready to be a part of it again. A life changed but not over. A chapter closed, and the start of a new book waiting to be read, or more accurately, to be written.